Welcome patrons. Wait, didn't I do this already? Whatever. For the most part, the video schedule is finally back on track as things are back to normal where I am now, and that's sort of boring, so let's talk about something a little out of the ordinary in Thetis. Something that some think is a myth, but both you and I know to be real. The Black Emporium. The Antiquarian. The wondrous Black Emporium would be nothing without its owner, Xenon, so let's start off by talking about the mysterious petrified man in a chair. So technically we have little hard facts about Xenon, as what we do know is described as legend, so keep that in mind as we go along. It's believed that Xenon was a nobleman from Kirkwall living around the Steel Age, which puts him around 300 years old when we meet him. World of Thetis Volume 2 describes him as possessing as much arrogance as he did wealth, and was offended by the thought that someone like him should have to succumb to death like a mere peasant, and thus began his quest for immortality. What we know next is that he made a deal with an Antivan witch of the wilds, which was most likely Yavanna, for eternal life, which she granted, but he never asked for eternal youth. He began to age, growing feeble as time dragged on, and World of Thetis Volume 2 once again describes that his aged internal processes subjected him to all manners of indignities that cannot be detailed here. When Xenon realized that his body would continue to waste away, he began to experiment in any way to preserve himself, and this is where the Black Emporium most likely began. He began to collect everything magical he could in an attempt to preserve himself. It's rumored that some worked for a time, but all eventually failed. This is also probably why he has so many arms and legs. And eventually, we have what we see today, speaking through a magical bauble calcified and fused to his chair, and probably that book too. He's still looking for his youthfulness to this day. His wishes are acted out by his various servants, who are needed to feed him and give him hourly baths to keep him from drying up. And speaking of servants, let's talk about those. We really only have one named servant, sort of, called Urchin, which we see as a small boy in Dragon Age 2. A codex entry in Dragon Age Inquisition describes the tale of a man who went to the Black Emporium and noticed a small girl, described as being around 12 years old, running around and taking care of him. So why the children? Well, in that same codex entry, it describes that so fragile his skin, he can only tolerate the barest whisper of touches from the smallest and most tender of his servants. Only in this way may he come close to his lost youth. We do know that he has adults in his service as well, as the invitation he gives to the Inquisitor is given by courier, and it's not described as being a child. The Black Emporium. The actual location of the Black Emporium might be different than what we know. In a letter from a secret Benedict to Divine Justinia V, he says that there are rumors of the Black Emporium located in the Kirkwall's Dark Town, sewers of Varayo, a boathouse in Lomarin, a tower in Marnispel, and in a statue of Andraste in Merdane, a city in the Anderfels. While we have definitely visited the Kirkwall location, this might be opening up the choice for the Emporium to make an appearance in future games when Kirkwall is just too far away. With the introduction of Alluvians, it could be that all of these locations are actually true. Either way, the Emporium has made its name in selling rare and unusual goods, and also housing strange magic items. For example, you can find the remains of Meredith in Dragon Age Inquisition, not even on proper display, just pushed where she fits. The actual items in the Emporium seem to change from game to game, but one item is constant: the Mirror of Transformation. Granted, it's hard to talk about lore when all this is just an excuse for a game mechanic, but they did try to do it. Here is a post from BioWare when the Black Emporium DA2 DLC was first announced. The Mirror of Transformation is an insidious and twisted device. When you alter your appearance with the device, it doesn't just change who you are, but it changes who you were and will be in the future. It selects from one of the infinite possible universes where you were brought up with a different lineage and twists that thread of history into the current experienced reality. The ripples of this action affect your family and other people's memories of your appearance as well.
Handle the mirror with care. It has been known to bite.
Xenon, his servants, and his wares are not the only ones in the Emporium, however. A golem named Thaddeus, Gigantus Crumbum III, and most recently Chauncey, a tiny bear, also reside in the strange Emporium. Xenon also mentions a monster under the floor of the place, although anything more on that is unknown. The customers. The actual Black Emporium is an invite-only store, and apparently you can only get an invitation if Xenon thinks you have the coin to buy his wares to help fund his search for immortality. We get a small glimpse of this invitation process from Dragon Age 2 and Dragon Age Inquisition. In Dragon Age 2, right away, you get your Uncle Gamlen yelling that he never gets any mail, and a letter that reads this: "Greetings. You do not know who I am, but I have heard of you. I understand you might need items from my collection, as well as the means to obtain them. I do not extend this invitation to anyone, but you are not simply anyone, are you? Consider this an invitation to the Black Emporium. Instructions through the passage underneath the city are included with this letter, as is the charm to enter. If you give the charm to another, its permission will immediately be revoked, and the consequences unpleasant. Adieu, Xenon. From this, we now know that those invited to the Black Emporium need a charm to enter, and it's only made for the person who was invited. This letter is changed in Dragon Age Inquisition, from the operation on the war table that unlocks the Black Emporium. Voices on the wind speak of a new power abroad in the world. Inquisition, they whisper. An ancient name restored, a memory rekindled and transformed into a blaze of hope. I hear the whispers and summon the fires of the Inquisition. Here in the depths beneath the city of chains, countless mysteries hide in shadow in anticipation of the light. Come, Black Emporium awaits. Xenon the Antiquarian must spend his days composing melodramatic invitations to his establishment. I imagine being stuck in a chair for centuries leaves one somewhat lacking for entertainment. This particular message was hand-delivered by a cloaked figure at twilight, precisely as the sun disappeared beneath the peaks. My men spied the courier lurking about our outer gates for at least an hour waiting for sunset, a servant under the command of some very specific instructions, I assume. It also seems that the people he invites tend to be pretty famous. Along with the champion of Kirkwall and the Inquisitor's loyal customers, Xenon himself talks about a few other guests.
Some Dane fellow asked why make a shop so hard to find. Really? He just has no concept.
Send my regards to the Lady Ambassador. Her ancestor visited the Emporium in the Blessed Age. I sold her a candle mounted with the severed hand of a first acolyte of Razikiel. I wonder, do the Montiliers still have it in their possession? I should like to see it again.
Some Codex entries also mention that the famed Brother Genitivi came to his store as well. Hopefully this won't be the last we see of the Black Emporium, if nothing else because I just like to see him critique my nose.
I liked your old nose better.
And that, dear patrons, is all that we know on the Black Emporium. I want to thank the awesome Reddit user Pobobo, who you may remember from a previous video about Valisline, for the suggestion. I also want to say that if you sent me something and I did not respond, I've been a little bit too busy too, and I've only just started to sort through the comments and PMs recently, so give me a few days and I should have responses coming soon. Again, thank you all for your patience in the last weeks regarding content, and you all have been very lovely so far, and I honestly really appreciate that so much. Anyway, just still lingering questions, proof that I'm wrong, comments about your own fan theory. Feel free to tweet me at @Gilderthon on Twitter, or send a PM to user Gillanon on Reddit. There we go. Daresharal.